welcome back. Our next speaker, Taylor Aukes, is the Community Services Director at a program named Balance Autism. But I have the pleasure of knowing Taylor personally because he was also one of our very first Learning Institute members at Proof Positive. So prior to sort of our website even going live, we invited some folks from around the country to come in and learn about the science and skills of happiness and help us think about how to share the science of happiness with the autism community. And Taylor was in that first group. And I can tell you that you're about to learn some really cool stuff because Taylor is the epitome of love of learning. He soaked in everything we had to share and went back to Balance Autism and immediately started implementing. So you're in for a treat. Taylor's going to talk to us sort of about his work at intersecting technology and well-being. Taylor, we are thrilled that you're here. We are thrilled that more people are going to get to learn about the important and exciting work that you guys are doing out of Balance Autism. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. So like Katie said, my name is Taylor Aukes, Community Services Director with Balance Autism. I'm going to be going through leveraging tech to promote well-being in community living environments. So kind of start out here. Um, who am I? Katie shared it of the journey there. Balance Autism about 8 years now. Um, when I was first asked to attend the Learning Institute, I kind of looked at my boss and was like, really? You think this is the face of happiness? Um, he still thought so, still sent me. And it was probably one of the best experiences I've had in my professional career. Um, so just really enjoyed getting to be kind of at the front end of learning everything that Proof Positive was doing. I think back then you were even like you've got more skills now on the website than there was when I first attended. So what I'm going to start off with talking about here is what we refer to at Balance Autism as smart living. So smart living, um, why did Balance Autism switch to adopting the model for smart living? A couple different reasons we did, utilizing remote supports versus the traditional in-person model. Just general staffing challenges, like finding people who actually wanted to work, making sure that we had the appropriate ratios, things like that, was becoming increasingly difficult. So just making sure we were evolving with the times to be able to address some of those issues. In addition to that, cost effectiveness. Having one staff work all the hours is not cheap. The staff efficiency, making sure that we were doing more with our staff than just having babysitters. I think too often in that traditional model of in-person staffing, we just rely on feeling safe because someone's present in the room, which really isn't doing a whole lot besides having someone sit in the room. Which also kind of leads to kind of that last point of why we started exploring smart living. Having someone sit on your couch 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, how is that living a life? For some individuals, that's necessary and that's definitely needed. But for a lot of our individuals, that really wasn't adding any value to their life. They weren't really achieving what they were capable of when it came to independence. Um, so those all reasons we started exploring smart living. Um, and so, what is smart living specifically? It is remote supports. It is a new way of delivering services using a value-based tech-first approach. Um, so it doesn't eliminate the in-person supports, but it does adopt the mindset of, can we solve this with tech first? Is this something that they can do themselves with the assistance of technology versus us doing it for them? And it is a new model of service delivery. It is a very assessment-driven model where there are a lot of different assessments that go on and take place prior to the implementation of services, assessing where their tech readiness score is, where their current levels are with their ADLs, and different things like that. Um, and it is individualized too. Smart living is not a one size fits all. And what smart living looks like for one individual could be drastically different than the next. It's taking a holistic, person-centered approach on the support needs and skill assessment to determine what type of service provision is necessary to help that individual achieve greater autonomy. In smart living, our battle cry is independence. What can we do to foster greater independence for all of our individuals? And on a side note with this slide too, often get asked why do I have this random picture of a house on here? Um, this is actually one of our smart living homes. Um, and I just love this picture because it looks like a normal home. What you can't see is all along the ridge line there, um, multiple cameras, exterior cameras. You can kind of see the garage camera there on the front, but it looks just exactly like a normal home. So, some of the different types of technology that we use in our smart living homes, um, just going to go through a couple of them here. The options are endless. If there's a use for the technology, we can find a way to use it. Here are just some of the main ones that we use. Down in the bottom left corner there is just a screenshot from a Grand Care screen. This is kind of the main hub that we use with all of our service delivery. Um, Individuals will have these hanging up in their rooms. Some of them will also have them out in kind of the main areas as well. It is essentially just a tablet. Has a lot of different features, calendar feature, reminders, two-way calls, a lot of different things like that, and is really kind of the staple of what we do with smart living. The upper left there, just kind of looks like that big gray rectangle, is a sleep mat. Uh, Goes in between the mattresses on the bed and tracks sleep. Um, got a Garmin watch there, GPS enabled. How much more freeing and independent is it to be able to go out in the community on your own, still have support staff know where you are, but be able to go out without uh, someone having to walk alongside you. For some of our individuals, using this has been able to increase the range in which they can go experience freedom and go wherever they want. Um, One of my favorite pieces here in the upper right is a thumbprint door lock. Some of our individuals remembering codes is not always the easiest. We have their front door set up that it just unlocks now with their thumbprint. Um, some of them still prefer the codes, so luckily this option has both. And I did see there the sleep mat is Withings, Withings brand, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in few minutes here. So, one of the things when it comes to smart living, the consulting company who was working with us when a couple years ago when we first started this process, one of the things that they always told us was the moment you start to utilize technology to deliver your service, your empathy immediately decreases. Um, kind of nodded when they first brought that up, and oh boy, did we learn that lesson once we actually started services. Um, almost instantly, we started hitting a bunch of bumps in the road. Um, our service was just really lacking connection. Um, where before we had the ability to kind of address, build rapport through a lot of those nonverbal cues, um, became a lot more difficult to do that through a screen. Um, we had a lot of our remote support professionals, or RSPs as we call them. We had a couple of RSPs who were asking to go back to being in person. They just weren't enjoying the lack of connection, and so wanted to go back to being in person where they felt more passionate. Um, we had our RSPs coming up with excuses for, oh, I need to go in the house and go do this. Um, they weren't enjoying the disconnect that they were feeling. And ultimately, too, that was affecting our person served. Um, in fact, we even had a person served who wanted to leave the program. They missed their staff. I think there were some issues with that of feeling like staff were too much like friends rather than support, but um, it was still a very disheartening thing for us to be rolling out a brand new platform and new model of service delivery and all of a sudden hit all of those bumps in the road. Thankfully, enter proof positive. Um, like Patricia had mentioned at the beginning of this, or Katie had mentioned at the beginning of this. I had the absolute blessing of being able to attend their Learning Institute, their inaugural Learning Institute, um, and just being able to take in all of the skills, the science and skills of happiness that Proof Positive is all about, was able to take all of that and be able to start implementing it into our smart living program. So, kind of transitioning a little bit here. I'm going to kind of go through some of the different skills that Proof Positive has, kind of how we paired that with technology in our program. So the first one here is the Perma Plus snapshot. So Perma Plus, I'm not going to go in too much in teaching the skill. But probably just going to focus a little bit more on and how we implemented the skill. Here you can see is another screenshot of our Grand Care screens that we use, um, where our remote supports project manager was able to take the snapshot and turn it into an assessment on the screen. So our person serve can, from their room, fill out their weekly or biweekly PermaPlus snapshot. Um, what this ended up doing for our team, our RSPs, our person served, is it created a much more meaningful interaction. So instead of making a phone call and just saying, "How you doing? Do you need any help?" Nope, good. Okay, talk to you later. Um, our RSPs can push out the assessment. Person server will fill it out, and then when RSPs initiate their video call, they have all the information from the assessment to be able to have a more guided conversation with our person served. Uh, so instead of just a generic, how you doing? Fine, great, okay. Talk to you later. Call if you need anything. It's a, hey, I noticed you scored yourself pretty low in relationships. Let's talk about that. What's going on with your relationships? Is there one specifically you're talking about, or just in general? And now our RSPs are actually engaging in good conversation with a person served. Specifically with the PermaPlus snapshot, which was really kind of the first uh, skill from Proof Positive that we integrated into Smart Living. I'm gonna take a little second here and tell you about Tom's story. Uh, Tom started in a traditional group home setting, multiple roommates, in-person staff. Tom never left his room. He did not want roommates. He did not like being there. He did not feel comfortable in that setting. So he went out and him and his guardian went and he purchased a condo. Um, Not an apartment. Don't call it that. He will get very upset with that. But he purchased a condo in a marketed community. But even after moving, getting out of that house was still kind of struggling socially. So after multiple conversations, went ahead and started Smart Living with Tom. And even with Smart Living, Tom was still kind of treating his RSPs like they were prison guards. Um, why are you checking in on me? This is annoying. I don't see value in this. And so the quality wasn't even that much better. He was in a better setting for him and what his preferences were, but he still wasn't finding value in the services being provided. And so he was still struggling with a lot of different things. Um, so we went ahead and we introduced the PermaPlus snapshot with Tom, sat him down, walked through the snapshot, explained all the different pieces of it, started with paper copies. Um, and I still distinctly remember being told about the story the first time. It was about 2 weeks after introducing the PermaPlus snapshot to Tom that he had initiated a call with his RSP, and all of a sudden he just holds up his PermaPlus snapshot paper and he goes, "So are we going to do this or what?" No, sounded very blunt and very frank. That's just kind of how Tom talks. That was a huge indicator for us that he was actually seeing value in it. It wasn't something he was going to check off the box. He was actually finding value in the PermaPlus snapshot. So with that, a bit of feedback that Tom did share with us is he wasn't feeling in the safest space doing that directly on the screen, going through the paper copy, having to answer on the spot. And it was really a lot of that feedback that we got from him, which is where we developed the digital assessment for it, where he can fill it out on his own time, send it, process, and then have time to talk about it. Another one that we use in our smart living program, Jolts of Joy. Now, this is one where this is probably one of my personal favorites. I just love it. It is such a good practice that I've been able to implement in my personal life, and something that we've also know person served absolutely love doing this. So what we've ended up doing is we added it to the enrollment process for all of our person served who are in Smart Living. So any individual who's coming into the program, we take them through designing their own Jolts of Joy list. We then take that list and that is saved in their file so that our RSPs have that information to be able to utilize in any of their virtual interactions with person served. Um, Quick side note with this one too, we did have to go through a little bit of some growing pains in adding this into the process. A lot of Initially, a lot of our RSPs thought this was just kind of, oh, this is replacing coping skills. It is not replacing a coping skill. Um, it is the whole broaden and building those positive emotions, being able to approach things differently, getting our RSPs to start using this in more of a proactive sense and then of instead of a reactive sense. Next, movement for happiness. Another one that's big in our smart living program. Someone maybe rates himself a little bit lower on the plus, on the permanent plus snapshot. Let's get out and go do something. Um, with our smart living program, we still use targeted in-person supports, um, keeping regularly scheduled physical activity as a part of the program, getting them out in the community to the YMCA, to the park, wherever. This is another place where that kind of that smart watch with the GPS tracking and things like that comes into play. Being able to utilize those pieces of technology to be outside, get active, swish. What went well is another skill we use quite a lot. Um, Another practice that all of our RSPs are trained on for being able to go through with person served, kind of doing a more guided gratitude practice. We've hit a kind of an individual. We had printed out these sheets and brought them to each of our different locations. We're walking through this process, kind of explaining the skill to one of our person served. And he kind of paused, looked at us, and was like, but I'm in smart living, so why can't I do this through technology? You can definitely do it through technology. Turns out this gentleman had already been journaling and had a discipline of journaling in his own life, but was using it on the notes function of his cell phone. Awesome. We definitely encourage that. He continues to do it. It was just adding in rather than a documentation of everything that happened today. How can we just add an additional little step of let's do some reflection on what went well? So instead of fixating or just documenting all the bad, you can still do that. Please go ahead and do that. But how do we add in, well, what's something good that happened? So we do have some individuals who um, don't want to write it down and are just content to go through that guided practice with our RSPs. And we got others who are now completely independent in their journaling and gratitude practice, and it is a part of their daily routine. Sleep. Sleep is also super, super important. Um, so I know this got kind of asked earlier. We use Withings is the brand of sleep mats we use. Balance Autism is a Therap user when it comes to all of our documentation. And Withings pairs with Therap's new product, Therap Connect. So these sleep mats actually auto document sleep patterns. generating a sleep score, respirations, REM sleep, and it all sends it directly into our documentation software, creates a nice little pretty graph for us. Uh, Kind of the old model with providing services is we would have a staff sleep on the couch. And oftentimes our staff were sleeping better than the individuals themselves. This new model, utilizing these sleep mats, it is a lot more proactive in how we were actually addressing their sleep rather than just waiting to be woken up to address something. We're actually tracking how they're sleeping. We have received a lot of feedback from medical professionals, psychiatrists, PCPs. Um, when we have our person served attend their appointments, we will print off their sleep data and have them bring that to the appointment. And the medical professionals just absolutely love that when it comes to making medication adjustments or things like that, being able to know how they're actually sleeping and how the meds are affecting that has just been invaluable information for them. All right. Are there any other questions? I kind of went through this a little bit faster thanks to the little tech snafu there at the beginning.
Um, Taylor, you actually just did a really big favor for a lot of people because all of us who present sometimes have tech challenges, and you handled it with such grace and got through your content. So thank you for that. And now we're able to. There was one question about the sleep mat, and you actually answered that. Um,
I have a
so
question.
I was going to say, I know that Katie will have a question. I, of course, have a question too, but go ahead, Katie.
Okay, so first, like you're just such an incredible spokesperson for getting the skills into action. So, I'm curious, you talked about the PermaPlus snapshot. Do you want to tell folks what PermaPlus is? We have not gotten into the dimensions of well-being today.
Yeah, so PermaPlus snapshot, essentially it's looking at positive emotions, engagement, relationships, mattering, achievement, and then the plus is kind of health catch-all. And how we're utilizing it with our person served is really kind of a just asking someone how they're doing is too generic. It's not specific, it's not really addressing any components of well-being. Because we're always just going to get that premeditated cookie cutter answer of I'm fine or I'm good. Um, so the snapshot really kind of breaks down all those different aspects of well-being to be able to kind of hone in on, well, how are you doing in this specific one? And it's just kind of on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at? Um, Also kind of having to learn with our person served that a 7 for someone could actually be really good. And a 7 for someone else could be horrible. Um, so kind of working through that and making sure we're staying individualized with all of our person served. But um, it has been just such a game changer when it comes to fostering positive interactions with our person served.
I love that. So, yeah, it's right. 30 years of research tells us these six things matter, and you and your team have figured out how to ask your person served how are they doing in each of these elements so that you have this sort of instant snapshot when you check in, not just generic, but like exactly how they're doing in each element. If someone says 2 for an element or 7, and you know for that person that 7 is, oh boy, they're always a 9 or a 10, 7 says, trigger warning, something's wrong here. what then? Do the remote staff sort of go, oh, we got a 2 or we got a 7, see ya, good luck?
No, that's again, we're kind of depending on which one that score was. First of all, working with our RSPs to not be alarmist um, and freak out too much and kind of create a negative spin, but kind of appreciate person serves honesty with that, and being able to feel comfortable enough to accurately say, I'm at a 2 today. Um, but then just having a targeted conversation on if it was a 2 for P, the positive emotions. Like, hey, let's start with a jolt of joy. I see here are your top 3 jolts of joy. Which one do you want to do? Okay, let's do that. All right, now let's talk through this. Like, where's that 2 coming from? Like, how can we help? Um, Relationships. Okay, let's talk through what relationship is it? Addressing where it's at. Um, Again, not being alarmist with it, but being able to utilize that to actually be supportive of their well-being rather than check check the box. I called you. Call me if you need anything.
I love that your initial coaching is like not to sort of fall into the negativity bias and sort of focus on the negative and maybe even catastrophize it or alarm, sort of signal the alarms. Because I know from having done this work for a long time and with many people as well, that it's really easy for people to have this misconception that we should be happy all the time, that once you know about happiness, that ought to be the only goal. It's like, oh no, 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 no. We all have a full range of human emotions. And so when someone's willing to say to you, I'm a little anxious or I'm a little stressed or you know what, I'm having some conflict in a relationship, that is just a snapshot in time, not reason for panic, not reason for, but it's actually an acknowledgement of the strength of that supportive relationship that they're willing to tell you. So, and then I'm stealing from you jolts of joy in the enrollment process. How smart is that? I ask people all the time when I visit programs, all direct service providers in particular, want to tell you very quickly sort of all of the potential challenging behaviors, all of the things they're working on. And my first question is always, what are the 3 quickest ways you can make that person laugh or experience joy? And that when we get that in proactively, and oftentimes people are like stumped because they didn't get training on it. But something tells me if I came to Balance, I could ask your folks, what are 3 quick ways you can make that person laugh or loosen up a little bit? And your team could answer that. So that's incredible. Good, good. Patricia, do we have anything else from the chat?
No, there was just a couple questions about the sleep and then how do you spell Theris?
Uh, I'll, if I type it out, will it go to everyone?
I'm not sure. Don't know. You're also welcome to. I can get the information from Taylor, and you guys can shoot me at info. Oh, yep. Our tech person said yes, Taylor. So yes, it will. But I also don't want to end on that. So, Taylor, I want you because you are like the jolt of joy man in our community. Name your top 2 jolts of joy that you use.
Um, so I've ended up switching. I regularly rotate my phone background. My youngest child, my daughter, she is a jolt of joy for me. So right now it's currently, I know it can't play favorites or anything like that, but my phone background currently is just the 2 of us. And so just sitting there and looking at that for a little bit is probably one of my top jolts of joy. And then music is a big one for me. I've got a very eclectic taste in music. But I have a playlist that I just call Brown Paper Bag with a mix of all of them, and just I find joy in the randomness of the songs coming up. So those would probably be my top two.
All right, Katie, next skill, brown paper bag. We're building it.
Yeah, great. We're gonna, yep, coming to, website in no time. Taylor, thank you for reminding us that in a tech-based world, we can still prioritize human connection. You opened by saying you spotted a loss of empathy, and you closed by saying you restored that sort of empathy and that connection via the skills of happiness. And I think that's watching you do this work has been incredible. And I love that we now have you sharing it with a broader audience. So no doubt more people are going to be thinking about how do we run smart homes and how do we do that from a place of prioritizing happiness.